Will politicians refrain from actions that can stoke the fire? Will the electorate refuse to be a pawn in their hands? Will the umpire live up to its billing? All will be revealed as we inch closer to the general elections. Good evening. Welcome to Nigeria 2015. I'm Chamberlain Uso. It's 18 days to the elections, and there is no backing off by the actors. Having laid their hands on the plow, they don't want to look back. Well, the tussle for who occupies Aso Rock continues, and there is no shortage of comments about the elections, political parties, the umpire, even the electorate. Well, the election campaigns appear to be one of the most dynamic we've ever had in the history of the country. Politicians appear with intent to comb the length and breadth of the country with their supporters. But there are many questions. Will it be done, or will it be devoid of rancor? We'll get to hear from our correspondent, who will bring us up to the minute on the goings-on at their location.
Hello, I'm Linda Akibe, standing by in Abuja to give you updates on some of the happenings in the political scene in Abuja.
I'm Joy Odinia, standing by in Awka, the Anambra State capital, to report some of the events happening politically.
How will the debates pan out on the web? Well, a team of web team, they provide us several platforms for you to participate and get your voice heard on the program. Well, first, you can start by telling us or tweeting using the hashtag Nigeria 2015. Well, don't forget to use the handle at the bottom of your screen, or the ones you see on the slide now. Well, there you can tell us from what you've experienced. Do you think INEC is ready for the elections or not? Well, this time you could use hashtag INEC ready or hashtag INEC not ready. Well, this comes in light of the different developments making the rounds across the length and breadth of the country about the forthcoming elections. But if you have comments or questions, do send us an email. And the email address is nigeria2015@channelstv.com. Well, joining us tonight, Professor Akin Oyebode is a professor of law. He'll give us his perspective concerning our focus about the elections tonight. And we also have from Skype, who joins us from Abuja, Mr. Kach Onanuju, who is a public affairs analyst. Well, Kach will join us from Abuja. Well, the call for non-violent elections continues to gather momentum. Well, that's our focus today. But before we go on with that, let's give you some background, historical background concerning what has been over time. Well, now you do remember that we've had several elections in this country, right from 1964 through to 2011, which happens to be the most recent one. But historians are quick to remind us about what transpired between that elections where we had in 1964. Actually, between 1964 and 1966, we had this very, of course, it was boisterous. They've come to describe our election in this country with so much energy. But at this time, you had the electoral battle between the Nigerian National Alliance and the United Progressive Grand Alliance. At that time, that was subjected to a lot of rigor and lots of arguments which went back and forth. But it wasn't just about the 1964 election. Now, this next slide also pops up in 1979 at that time, too. Well, yeah, some of the images you see also, people expressing themselves strongly about how they felt with that election. From then on, we had in 1983, and then 1993, don't forget this current republic from 1999, even in 2003 as well. You had so much elections. There was a case where it was reported that a truck actually rammed into INEC office. Many thought that the elections were going to be moved or postponed at that time, but it didn't. It held on the same day. And here we are today speaking about another elections. Well, after 2003, we had the elections in 2007. Of course, so much build-up, so much talk about will it hold, how will it eventually play out. Have we learned our lessons from 2003, then 7? Not long after that, we had the next elections in 2011. Now, this was a major talking point in the history of this country because after these elections till today, there are those who are talking about the post-election violence that occurred and how many lost their lives. As a matter of fact, they published some figures. Now, looking through here, they talk about 10 billion naira worth of properties which were destroyed in this election. At that time, it was really huge, and we all think at this time now they're talking about how do we avert that kind of scenario. There's been a lot of talking points now to the extent that it was only recently, as a matter of fact, when that peace accord was signed. Again, a major talking point about that peace accord where the president with 11 others, so the president, the APC candidate, and 10 other contestants of 10 other political parties were present, and they went ahead and put pen to paper concerning what and how they intend to go with that. As you can see, some of the high points actually from that peace accord, they refer to it now as the Abuja Peace Accord, where parties, they agreed amongst themselves that parties must refrain from campaigns inciting religious, ethnic, tribal, and related sentiments. Candidates there agreed they were going to refrain from making any public statement, pronouncement, or speech that can provoke violence. They agreed to forcefully and publicly speak against violence, and that all institutions of government like INEC and security agencies must act and seem to act without partiality before, during, and after the polls. Well, they also committed themselves to monitoring utterances by their candidates and supporters on compliance to the accord while reporting any breach to a national committee on the 2015 elections. Well, after this accord was signed, there were so many things that have been happening ever since then, but let's let you listen to some of the commentary that went on between those who were present on that day about that peace accord.
It's imperative that these elections happen on time, as scheduled, and that they are an improvement over past elections. And they need to set a new standard for this democracy. That means that Nigerians have to not only reject violence, but they have to actually promote peace. I met with President Jonathan earlier today, and separately with General Buhari. And I was encouraged to hear once again from both men that this is exactly what they intend to do, to try to press for an election that can be held with the credibility the people of Nigeria want and deserve. As President Jonathan said in his New Year's message, none of our political ambitions is worth the blood of any of our countrymen, women, and children. And as General Buhari recently tweeted, electoral violence is unacceptable, and every Nigerian life is sacred. Both candidates have also signed on to the so-called Abuja Accord, which commits them to running exclusively issue-based campaigns, refraining from violence before and during and after Election Day, and speaking out against any violence that does emerge. These are commitments that we need to see from everyone, and they are commitments that need to be kept. A remarkable example for the world.
States John Kerry speaking about the most recent of the visits that he had in the country. That happens to also fall in the timeline about the most recent commentary about what is being said, perhaps being done, if you will, towards ensuring that we conduct violence-free elections. But he made reference to the Abuja Accord, which we just highlighted on the screen not long ago. Now let's take you to what was said at that time and those who were present.
The country's unity in diversity must not be undermined by campaigns that seek to exploit either of our two major national fault lines, ethnicity and religion. any injudicious introduction of these two factors into the contestation for votes in any part of the country would be bound to stoke up flames of violence.
There's no acceptable alternative. There's no plan B for free, fair, and credible elections in Nigeria.
The attitude and disposition of parties and candidates will determine to a large extent whether we have peaceful or non-violent elections.
On paper, you can't catch Nigeria. You can't. You can only catch Nigeria in the field. Practical implementation. Go to any ministry, go to any first data, you will get administrative instruction how the human beings, the workers, Nigerians, should be managed from floor cleaning one to the permanent secretary and to the minister when he eventually gets there.
We must redeem our political culture. We must redeem our image.
Nigerians will agree with me. Since I became a president, I have conducted a number of governorship elections, senatorial elections, and others. They are not perfect elections, but they have been reasonably fair. And that's why I say that even the opposition parties should commend me for that. And we promise that we will do more, because I believe that when we conduct our elections must be credible, not just by our own thinking, but everybody must believe